Hey guys, back with another video, and today I wanted to go over some hidden or secret weapon locations in Fallout 4. Now, before we start, this video is mostly going to be going over non-legendary as well as non-unique weapons in Fallout 4 that you may be familiar with, but may appear in places that you might not have expected. So again, while you may know what the actual weapons are, you may not have known that they could appear in some of the locations I'm about to go over. With this in mind, I'd like to issue a bit of a challenge to you guys. If you didn't know every location or learned something in this particular video, leave a like on this video. But if you did know every location, feel free to leave a dislike. But with all of the intro out of the way, let's go ahead and start with number 10, and that is going to be the 44 pistol that is near Sanctuary. There's a pretty good chance that a couple of veteran players out there will know the location of this particular 44 pistol, but just in case you don't, this weapon is located at an unmarked location that is between Sanctuary Hills and another location called the Robotics Disposal Ground. All you have to do is cross the bridge out of Sanctuary, then go down to the small creek and walk along it until you find some tubing or what looks like some kind of water filtration system. From here, try to get on top of it and you should be able to find a 44 pistol located on or near the unit itself. Now, you may have to take out a few low-level bandits that are nearby, but they shouldn't be too much of a challenge this early on in the game. The reason you would want to go ahead and pick this pistol up is because the 44 pistol is Fallout 4's best non-DLC pistol. It deals an impressive 48 damage per shot before upgrades, outpacing pretty much every other early game weapon, and deals in excess of 80 damage when it's fully upgraded, making it one of the better pistols later on in the game. The only problem with the 44 pistol is that it can't be suppressed, and finding ammo for it early on can be difficult. However, it is worth mentioning that ammo can usually be bought in stores. Now, while you will find better 44 pistols as you progress through the story, you might as well go ahead and obtain this one early on and keep it for some of the early fights, especially if you're focusing on a pistol build. Number 9. The combat shotgun between BACKSTREET APPAREL and Diamond City. Now, I have to issue a bit of a disclaimer about the hidden location of this combat shotgun. It's worth mentioning that if you visit this area, you're not necessarily guaranteed to always get a combat shotgun. However, with that said, of the 3 to 4 times I've tested this, I did receive a combat shotgun fairly frequently. And if I didn't receive a combat shotgun, I either got a standard double barrel shotgun, and one time I actually managed to get a pair of lasers with the scatter mod attached. So I would say even if you don't get a combat shotgun from doing this, it's still worth it to at least come here and see what you can get. All you have to do is make your way to an alleyway that's south of BACKSTREET APPAREL, but is slightly northeast of Diamond City. Now, you'll know that you're at the right place when you start to encounter a couple of raiders. Go ahead and dispatch them and then look around for 2 different gun traps. One should be along a small wall right next to some stairs, while the other should be pretty close by in what looks like a small windowsill. Now, in my experience, I've found that one of these traps should have a combat shotgun, while the other has a regular double barrel. Though, like I said, you may not always find a combat shotgun here. Still, I think you should go ahead and visit this location, and if you did manage to get a combat shotgun, leave it in the comments below. Number 8. The Railway Rifle at Big John's Salvage. So, the Railway Rifle is a pretty powerful weapon that's great for both rifleman and commando-based builds. It deals 100 damage per shot, and it also has relatively cheap and retrievable ammo, making the Railway Rifle a great choice for both the early and later game, especially in non-survival difficulties where you don't have to worry about ammo weights. Now, normally, you have to wait until level 20 in order to acquire a railway rifle. However, you can acquire one at any level by making a visit to a location called Big John's Salvage that's just south of the Boston metropolitan area. While this area is fairly dangerous given that it's swarming with super mutants of various levels, if you can manage to get inside, flip a circuit breaker that's connected to an overturned blue rail car near the house, you can actually climb on top of the rail car and then enter the hatch to the bunker itself. Once inside, you should see the railway rifle right in front of you. This is ultimately a great location to get the railway rifle. While it may be difficult to get early on because Big John's Salvage is quite dangerous, I think it's something that you should definitely go and try to do. Number 7. The Ripper at West Everett Estates. While West Everett Estates has a bunch of super mutants that you'll have to contend with, there is a guaranteed Ripper that can spawn at this location that you might overlook. The Ripper itself is located near the entrance to the backyard bunker on a cabinet, with the backyard bunker entrance being located in a small shack that's connected to the yellow house that's closest to the gated off water tower. Ultimately, I'd recommend you go ahead and try to take out all of the enemies in this location. That way you can retrieve the Ripper safely, but I suppose if you wanted to run in with power armor and constantly take stim packs to get it, you could do it that way as well. Otherwise, it's a Ripper and is one of the best melee weapons in vanilla Fallout 4. While it may lack the range of most of the melee weapons, it can attack several times a second, potentially allowing you to rack up a lot of damage. And if you manage to craft an extended blade for it, it will add a bleed component, further increasing the overall damage. While you will be able to get a unique Ripper that's more useful in the Far Harbor DLC, getting the Ripper at this location can prove to be quite useful. So I'd recommend you pick it up whether you have the DLC or not. Number 6. The Combat Rifle at Greater Mass Blood Clinic. The Combat Rifle is one of the best rifles in Fallout 4 once it has been upgraded to accept .308 caliber ammo. Before any DLC, the Combat Rifle was the best weapon that made use of .45 caliber ammo, and for that reason, it's definitely worth obtaining a Combat Rifle until you can gain access to the Far Harbor DLC, where you can reliably obtain a Radium Rifle. Now, there is a hidden Combat Rifle that you can consistently acquire at a location known as the Greater Mass Blood Clinic. If you're unsure where the Greater Mass Blood Clinic is, it's directly south of Fort Hagen, and all you have to do when you arrive is kill a couple of the blood bugs and bloat flies in the area, make your way to the roof of the building, and once you're there, the combat rifle should be lying on the ground right near some shotgun shells. The nice thing about this location is that the combat rifle will always be here, regardless of your level. So you could feasibly come here as early as level 1 or 2, then fast travel back to Sanctuary and make the first several areas and missions in the game a cakewalk. Ultimately, this is a pretty great hidden weapon location, and I think you'll find obtaining a combat rifle this way makes the early game much easier. Number 5. The Radium Rifle northwest of the ruined church. So, the Radium Rifle is a pretty awesome weapon that could be obtained in Fallout 4's Far Harbor DLC. Now, you may be interested to know that the Radium Rifle consistently spawns at an unmarked location on your map. So, in case you haven't played through the entire DLC and you don't want to go through the trouble of going to the nucleus and talking to the children of Adam, you can always go to this particular location and receive a Radium Rifle. So, starting at the ruined church, you're going to want to look at your map and orient yourself traveling towards the northwest. Once you've done this, simply travel northwest and you should eventually come upon a shack. Simply go inside and on your left, you should see the Radium Rifle right there. The reason you would want to pick this up is because the Radium Rifle sports the highest base damage of any weapon in the game that uses .45 caliber ammo. Plus, what's also nice about the Radium rifle is that it deals rad damage. And what rad damage does in layman's terms is it reduces the overall maximum health of an enemy without dealing damage directly to their health bar. And this turns out being very effective against legendary human enemies, as they can't heal back all of their health when using a stim pack or when they inevitably transform. So if you want a great weapon and you're willing to trek out to the ruined church, this hidden Radium rifle is certainly worth your time. Number 4. The missile launcher in front of BACKSTREET apparel. While the missile launcher is sort of gimped by the fact that its damage starts and caps out at 150, it's still a great weapon for the lower levels where most enemies can be taken out with 1 or 2 missiles, and the gun does have some decent upgrades when you manage to reach the higher levels. What you may be interested to know though is that there is a missile launcher that can be obtained fairly close to Diamond City. Now, you will need to go to a place called BACKSTREET Apparel and ideally approach the location from the west. Now, if you take a look in some of the steel tubes near the truck in front of the actual building, you'll notice that there is a missile launcher that's a part of a trap. All you have to do is deactivate the trap, and you should now have a missile launcher in your inventory. Now, according to the wiki, the missile launcher will continuously respawn every 24 hours until BACKSTREET Apparel is totally cleared. Originally, I tried this and was previously able to confirm that this did work on the PC version. However, I suspect as of a patch that was released just today on February 28, 2018, I can no longer get this trap to respawn the missile launcher. Now, you may have more luck than I do, and it's also possible that the console versions of the game may or may not be able to still perform this particular exploit, so feel free to let me know in the comment section below on if you were able to get this to still work. Otherwise, this is a great way to get the missile launcher early on. While you will still have some trouble acquiring missile ammo, it's definitely worth it to go ahead and pick this particular weapon up early, or even later on in the game if you haven't already. Number 3. The Fat Man at Robotics Disposal Ground. So there's a pretty good chance that a lot of veteran players will already know about this particular location, but just in case you don't, there is a Fat Man hidden in plain sight that can be obtained very close to Sanctuary at the very beginning of the game. And this is at a place called the Robotics Disposal Ground that just so happens to be northeast of Sanctuary. All you have to do is look on top of some of the cars in this particular area near an inactive sentry bot, and you should be able to find this Fat Man fairly easily. Now, if you do need some ammo, you can also find a mini nuke near the eastern gate next to some tires. Now, you will have to knock this thing out of place, but trust me when I tell you that it can be picked up. As far as I'm aware, this is one of, if not the earliest locations you can acquire the Fat Man and a mini nuke in Fallout 4. And what's great about this location is that the enemies in the surrounding areas aren't particularly strong, and you're also still pretty close to Sanctuary. So you could feasibly take these items back and stash them somewhere. Now, while I wouldn't recommend you use the Fat Man until you get a lot of ammo for it, it's definitely worth it to get this amazing weapon so early on, and I highly recommend you do so. Number 2. Handmade rifles at NUKA-TOWN Backstage. Something I didn't know before making this video was that you can actually loot regular handmade rifles in Nuka World without looting dead raiders or killing them and taking their stuff. While you can purchase the splatter cannon at the NUKA-TOWN markets, or you can receive the problem solver by successfully performing a speech check with Mason, if you are somehow unable to acquire a handmade rifle in either way, there is a somewhat hidden way in which you can acquire handmade rifles without killing a single raider. All you have to do is go to the Brad Burton Amphitheater in Nuka World, and once you're inside, head towards the pair of double doors on your right. This will take you to the NUKA-TOWN Backstage, and all you have to do at this point is walk down all of the stairs, and once you enter the main area with all of the pack members, turn to your left and look to the southern wall, and you should be able to find a handmade rifle just laying there on the shelf. Alternatively, you can traverse the complex and there are several other handmade rifles just laying around. There is one on a desk in the room with some armors and weapons workbenches, and there is also one on a shelf located on the northern wall of the western room. You're definitely going to want to acquire handmade rifles at some point because the handmade rifle is arguably the game's best rifle. While it does have some high upgrade requirements and it's bested by the Gauss rifle in terms of damage, it does have a good ammo weight versus damage ratio, making it very practical in pretty much every difficulty. So I'd say there's no reason not to go ahead and go to the NUKA-TOWN backstage and pick these guns up. They're basically free and can be upgraded into some of the best ballistic rifles available in Fallout 4. Number 1. The Sledgehammer at THICKET Excavations. So, the Sledgehammer is one of the better slow attack speed melee weapons in Fallout 4. Now, while you can obtain the Super Sledge, and that is the superior choice provided that you don't have any of the DLC, the regular Sledgehammer is the superior choice if you have the Nuka World DLC, as the Nuka World DLC allows you to upgrade it with a number of powerful customizations that greatly increase its damage to insane levels. Plus, if you have a high enough strength stats, you chug a bunch of chems and potions, you can basically deal like 34,680 damage with this weapon, and that's pretty awesome. But I digress. This hidden sledgehammer is pretty easy to get, as all you really need to do is go to THICKET Excavations, which is slightly to the east of Concord, and then go near the water pump, and you should be able to find one of these laying against a metal work table. Now, according to the wiki, it says that this sledgehammer isn't always guaranteed to spawn here. However, what I will say is that from my own experience, I've always seen the sledgehammer spawn in this location. So just keep it in mind. You may also have a sledgehammer spawn in this location, or you may not. And it, quite frankly, could depend by platform. And feel free to let me know in the comments if you were able to find a sledgehammer here. What's nice about this sledgehammer though is that it is a great weapon early on and later on if you have the Nuka World DLC. So I'd say it's worth visiting this secret location to get your hands on what can potentially be the best melee weapon in the game, but also possibly the best weapon in the game. Alright guys, that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. Now, before I go, I'd like to do an experiment. And if you made it to the end of this video, leave a comment with the word SNICKERSNEE. And if you're curious about how it's spelled, it will be visible on the video right now. And yes, before you ask, that is an actual word, and I'll use it in a sentence for you. I drew my SNICKERSNEE, and henceforth we engaged in eternal knife combat day and night and day, forever and ever. The end. All stupid words aside though, like this video if you liked it, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.